In this lesson, we'll talk about the equations of circles.
For a circle, remember that a circle is simply a set of points that are all the same distance away from some center point. Circles have a radius, a diameter, and you've worked with circles in the past. But to find the standard form of the equation of a circle, we actually appeal to the distance formula. Without going into the details of the derivation, this is our standard form of the equation of a circle. You've got some center that we label hk, so h is the x-coordinate of the center, and k is the y-coordinate of the center, and r is the radius of the circle. And what we do is we use this equation, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. If you were to take the square root of both sides, you'd see that this is really just the distance between hk and an arbitrary point xy, and it has to be the radius r. Let's start off with a quick example of just writing the standard form of an equation of a circle. So we've got a circle of radius 4 and center 3, 5. So just to label our values, h is equal to 3, k is equal to negative 5, and r is equal to 4. Now simply plug it in. X minus h is 3 squared plus y minus k is negative 5 squared equals 4 squared. So just plug in h, k, and r. First one I'll leave alone. Nothing to change here. Y minus negative 5 is the same thing as y plus 5. And 4 squared is 16. And that's it. Given the center and the radius, it's actually pretty quick and easy to write the equation of the circle. But normally we won't be given the center and the radius, we'll be given some other information and we need to find the center and the radius. This is where the distance formula and midpoint formulas come back up. Let's look at the circle whose diameter endpoints are negative 3, 1 and 5, 5. So remember, a diameter is the distance across the circle from one end to the other end, and it's kind of the maximum distance across. Another thing you can think of is the diameter is equal to twice the radius in lengths, and so that's another way to interpret it. But whatever the case, what we're interested in finding is what is the radius and what is the center. For a diameter, the center lies in the middle of the diameter. Let's find the center first. The center will be the midpoint. Negative 3 plus 5 over 2 and negative 1 plus 5 over 2. The midpoint between the 2 points that make up the diameter is the center. That's the definition of a circle. And so if we do the midpoint formula, we'll find the center. It is negative 3 plus 5 is 2, and 2 over 2 is 1. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4, and 4 over 2 is 2. Now, you have a decision to make. You need to figure out the radius, and you'll need the distance formula for that. One possibility is you can calculate the distance between the original 2 points. That'll tell you the length of the diameter, and you can divide that number by 2 to find the radius. However, I prefer a different method, and that's to calculate the distance between the center and one of the points, and then you'll get the radius directly. What I'm going to do for the radius is use the distance formula, which is the square root of, if I label these x1, y1, and x2, y2, I get 1 minus 5 squared plus 2 minus 5 squared using the distance formula. I get the square root of negative 4 squared is 16, 2 minus 5 is negative 3, and negative 3 squared is 9. So we get the square root of 25, which is 5. Alright, so we have the center and the radius, and that's enough to write the equation. Let me point out that what I labeled x2 and y2 a second ago are really the h and the k for my equation. And so I get x minus 1 squared, it's always x minus h squared, plus y minus k is 2 squared equals r squared. X minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 25 is the equation of my circle. Next example. Find the standard form of this equation from a circle graphed. To find the equation, you need to find a center and a radius. So what you want to do is eyeball where you think the center is. Now, to double check your answer, this is what you do. Count to the left, and I find 6. Count to the right, and I find 6. Count up, I find 6. And count down, I find 6. If for some reason you do not get the same values as you go through it, then you have put the center in the wrong place. So move the point that you've guessed accordingly until all the values left, right, up, and down are the same. With that said, that's also your radius. That distance is 6. So here's what I get.
Our center is -2, 1, which we can read right off of the graph, and our radius is 6. So let's put this in the standard form of the equation of a circle. We get x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And then we just simplify. We get x plus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 36.
Alright, let's try our hand at sketching a few graphs. One thing that you might have noticed by looking at these problems before is that whenever the value is a plus in the equation, the value of the coordinate is negative. But whenever the value is a minus, the coordinate is positive. So if I see a plus, I'm going to use a negative value for h or k. If I see a minus, I'll use a positive value. That's because it's x minus h and y minus k. So h and k have an opposite sign from what the two values say in the actual formula. With that said, here I can think of this as x minus -2 if I'd like. But either way, a plus means that h is -2. With that said, y minus 4 means k is just 4. Again, it's the opposite from what sign you see in the equation. And then finally, remember that r squared is this number. So if r squared is 4, then r is 2. Let's write that out. The center is -2, 4. And the radius is 2. So let's plot these points. -2, 4 is my center. And what I would do is the following. If the radius is 2, go in each of the 4 directions and plot the point at 2. Right 2, up 2, left 2, and down 2. And then you simply draw the circle that connects these together. Next example, and again this is a star problem, so feel free to try it first and then come back to see my solution. The center is HK, so doing it a little bit faster than we did last time, remember it's always the opposite here. H is going to be +5, and K is going to be -3. So my center is 5, -3. For my radius, again this number is always r squared. So r equals 4. With that said, let's draw it again. The center is at 5, -3. And then I need to draw 4 in each direction. Right 4, left 4, up 4, and down 4. And here is the final equation of the circle.